Pan Am 747 jumbo jet.
Good evening. There's been a major air crash tonight near the Scottish border.
Good evening. A Pan-American Boeing 747 airliner flying from London to New York crashed tonight in the Scottish borders. The company says that Pan-American Flight 103 had more than 250 people on board.
Out of prison and allowed to go home to Libya to die with his family. Abdelbasit Ali Mohamed Al Megrahi has terminal cancer. Scottish Justice Secretary Kenny MacAskill announced that he's now free.
Our justice system demands that judgment be imposed, that compassion be available.
The basic ground of appeal is based on mendacity, lies, as we call it. Tony Gauci, who was the Maltese shopkeeper, who said, I have sold these clothes to Mr. Fimmer and to Mr. Al Megrahi. Well, he must be a bloody liar to none, because Fimmer wasn't even there, was in Sweden. That in itself should have woken up the court.
We believe that the evidence against Al Megrahi is overwhelming. The shopkeeper Gauci, his evidence is clearly crucial. Al Megrahi was staying in the Holiday Inn in Malta. A few blocks along the road from there is a shop called St. Mary's. Mary's, I think it's called. It was a clothes shop. Items of clothing and an umbrella were purchased in that store and put in a suitcase in which this bomb was placed. Again, no doubt the persons who were responsible for that thought that the explosion would obliterate any trace of these clothes at all. Our experts were able to put it back together again, and we identified these clothes from coming from that shop. Gauci's the owner. He identified Al Megrahi as the purchaser of the clothes.
Why is it that Mr. Gauci had $2 million paid into his bank account a few days after giving evidence? Why did he disappear? What's so wrong? No one else disappeared. Everybody else was around. Why did he change his identity and leave? We from the defence know only too well that 270 death, you've got to have a conviction. Someone's got to pay, even if it's an innocent man. In this case, it's clearly an innocent man.
This is what London and Washington wanted desperately to avoid. Pictures of the Lockerbie bomber embracing Libyan leader Muammar al-Gaddafi.
Why do you think America allowed the Scots to try him in Camp Zeist in Holland? Why do you think that was the case? And I tell you why. Because the disclosure rules in America are far higher than in Scotland. In Scotland and in England, you can have what we call PII, public immunity interest. So the prosecution can say, well, this document we're not going to show you because it has public interest immunity. What a load of bullshit. They abuse that all the time. And I'm going to highlight the abuses that have been made in the trial process.
Every significant case, there is material in the hands of the prosecution which cannot and ought not to be disclosed to the defence.
For example, why were vital documents which emanated from the CIA, which were related to the timer, the Mebo timer, why were those withheld from the defence?
And I believe we've got a lot of evidence to demonstrate that this man is guilty. Here's a man who was travelling on completely false papers. He was a spy for them. He's in the right place at the right time, in Malta. He purchases the clothes, identified by the man who sold them the clothes.
Leave aside that Tony Gauci has been paid to lie. He must have lied because he said he'd given the clothes to both. The court acquitted one, so he must be a liar on one.
He was responsible for security at Libyan Airlines. He had access to the airport. He knew how the systems worked.
To what extent, for God's sake, are we prepared to go? What sacrifices are we prepared to make of innocent men?
He had every opportunity to make sure that that suitcase flew from Malta to Germany and Frankfurt in Germany, from there to Heathrow Airport, and from there on the Pan Am flight. He didn't even have the balls to be on the bloody plane himself.
We owe it to Mr. al-Megrahi and his family. He's an innocent man. He's clearly an innocent man. He didn't do it, couldn't have done it, and too much skullduggery has occurred. And none of the flamboyant advocacy of Mr. Jerome Lynch QC is going to work on that, because the truth is the truth.